We're going live. Hi, Miriam. How are you? Okay. So now we're live. Hoodie, who's the note taker? You'll hear her voice throughout the stream. Oh, Richard's also taking notes. Okay.
Who said note taker?
Cheryl, what's up, Cheryl? Okay. Why don't we start when you're ready and not hear chirping? Wow. Okay. Nothing. All right. So we're live on there. We're live on here. Why are you guys sitting in the second row? What is that? But at least turn the chairs around so they're comfortable.
They're connected. That's super weird.
It's like a men and women section.
Yeah, we love that.
Okay, so I just want to say that before we start, I was super excited because I thought no one was going to be here, and I could not only broadcast an empty room, but to no followers on Instagram, no followers on YouTube. It's going to be amazing. But now that you're here, I feel like I have to be extra entertaining because someone told me how boring I am in general. They're like, this guy, he is so boring. Like, he has good ideas, but he's super boring, and I just don't understand it. So I'm going to try to stay focused and give you some actual Torah because that's the purpose of this. Hi, Rabbi. But hopefully the key for you is to be entertained. Okay? It is, but apparently that doesn't sell. So, all right, here goes. You guys weren't here last week. Richard was here. I don't know who watched. But basically, in short, we talked about, hey, Rabbi, you need something? Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah. You do what you got to do. Am I blocking you? The Gemaras? I don't know. There's a bunch here. All right, if we find it, we'll let you know. All right, we're officially starting. You ready? Okay, guys, I'm hanging this up and going back on a new live so I could start recording from scratch, okay?
You didn't record it all and you focused on your people.
Maybe if you stop complaining about everything all the time, we could start. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's small. I think that's the average size. Can't even reach that. What if there's a fire?
You guys seem very far away. I don't.
Social fire.
There's no fires here. All right. Here's the deal. Last week. Why are you calling me? Yeah.
You ended your live.
I said I was ending it and coming right back so that the recording didn't start from all of that nonsense.
Okay, because nothing. Okay, let me
Go
try
back
again.
in. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're back on. All right. So last week we talked about the origins of Chassidus. Do you know anything about Chassidus? What do you know about it?
That I come from the Noam.
Okay.
Two interruptions.
Okay. So what does that? What does that mean to your actual? Does it do anything to your minhagim, or does it do anything to your way of life?
I'm Persian now.
You're Persian now. Okay. All right. It's converted. You Chassidus? In the family, Rich?
More Lauren with short gov.
Okay. All right. So basically, everyone talks about. Oh, still talking about Ashana. Okay. Everyone talks about Chassidus. They don't really know what it is. They think of Chassidim, and they don't really know what Chassidus is. So we're going to tackle that. And there's another episode we talked about last time. Richard took very good notes, so you guys can pick up and cheat off of his notes. But basically, we talked about the origins and how it came about, how the Baal Shem Tov started it, why he started it, and just to give you a little quick 1-second thing before we get into today's topic. Basically, there was a whole bunch of Jews that were lost that felt like they didn't get to be Jews just like everyone else because they weren't learned. And the Baal Shem Tov basically said, you don't have to be in yeshiva to be a good Jew. You still have the same Hashem. You still can connect the same way that everyone else in yeshiva does, but you can't do it unless I show you the inner core of Judaism. So I'm going to give you, the world was at a very dark place. We had come so far from Matan Torah that Jewish life was very disconnected. So either you were the Gra or one of these, big Talmidei Chachamim, and that you were, in yeshiva, or you were just a simple Jew and you really had nothing. You couldn't connect on the way that those people could. And so there was this big divergence where there was Jews on one side and Jews on the other side, and the Jews on the other side who didn't, who wanted to feel godliness, but really didn't know how, they had to find a way, and they were kind of getting lost. So the Baal Shem Tov comes around and is like, okay, it's time. We got to find a way to connect you. You guys are as Jewish. What makes you a Jew is the same as what makes everyone else a Jew. You're important too. You deserve to connect. You don't necessarily have to be in the yeshiva or have to, be so learned or literate in order to have that same connection with Hashem. So he basically said that, hey, because the Jewish people are so sick spiritually, the only way to revive them, give a nice mashal about a king giving up the crown jewel of his crown in order to grind it up and save his son, to give him a medicine when his son was on his deathbed. That crown jewel is Chassidus. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came along and created the Kabbalah. He didn't create it, he just revealed it. And basically that Kabbalah became the innermost secrets. And the reason there was a big fight was because all the people who knew that Kabbalah was so sacred were like, you can't just give this to the masses. This is important. This is the crown jewel. And the Baal Shem Tov was like, it's the only thing that's going to save them. We have to reach and dig down so deep, or else we're never going to get anywhere, because Jews are so far removed. So he took the crown jewel and said, okay, it's time to give this to the Jewish people. And that's why there was such an uproar. Okay, all that history aside and the battling and all that stuff, the Baal Shem Tov was the founder. He had a big student named the Maggid of Mezrich, which you probably have heard of. And the Maggid of Mezrich had lots of students that came to learn by the Maggid. The Baal Shem Tov went out and about and went to a city near you and found shuls and found people and found workers and found all sorts of Jews and connected with them. The Maggid established his space in Mezrich, and the Mezricher, as they call him, had like a big yeshiva where people came to learn by him. So there's all these students that you've probably heard of, like Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichov, like the Balatanya, the Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, he was a great grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, all descendants of basically being students of the Maggid of Mezrich, who basically said, okay, we're accepting this Chassidus, this form of the inner revealed dimension of the Torah. And the reason that it spoke to them was because it gave them a way to connect again in a very non-traditional way, because like I said, Judaism became very pigeonholed. It became very cornering, where you had to be a certain fit in a certain way, have certain abilities, and if you didn't have that, you couldn't be Jewish. Okay, all good on the historical part? Okay, all right. At that point, right, Rav Zusha Vanipoli was one of these Hasidim, one of these great scholars, and basically there was lots of these different types of Jews. Now, Chassidus back then, and is a little bit different today, at its core required there to be a Rebbe. Okay, you had to be a Chassid of someone. The term Chassid in general, as it relates to Chassidus, basically means that you are a Chassid of your Rebbe, which is why today, if you're like, oh, we're Babover Hasidim, or we're this and that, yeah, these were places in Eastern Europe where these students of the Maggid, set up shop, and that's where they were the Rebbeim of Shuls. And they all formed their own minhagim and their own ways, but technically their students were Hasidim of them. Today, you could go to Monsey or Brooklyn or Lakewood or Israel and find general Hasidim, where there's people stemmed from all these, original Rebbes, and their families followed the ways. And today they're not necessarily tied to, they might be able to say, my family comes from this place, or my family were Hasidim of this Rebbe back in Poland. But now we're just general Hasidim. We don't necessarily have a Rebbe that we're tied to. We just have Hasidish minhagim. I just was with Shulam Lemmer, and I said to him, what kind of Hasid are you, Shulam? What do you follow? Because in my mind, if you're a Hasid, you're a Hasid of someone. Like, I'm a Hasid of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So for me, it's a given. He's like, I don't necessarily have someone. We're just general Chassidim in my family, which shocked me because I didn't know, because the whole premise of the origins of Chassidus was, we have a Rebbe, and the Rebbe serves a greater purpose, which we'll get into a little bit later. But essentially, your customs came from what that Rebbe, what that leader of Chassidus took from the Maggid of Mezrich, or if you go down a generation, let's say your father was a Chassid of the Maggid, and then your father had 6 kids. Each kid might have formed his own Chassidus, which could have just been the difference between I live here, you live there, we live here, you live in Bezer, I live on Karla, all that stuff. So we had slightly different minhagim based on what was local or what was whatever. But the general idea was like, hey, we have this system based on the inner depth of the Torah, the inner dimension of the Torah, the part that was so sacred and not revealed and hidden from everyone for many years, until the Baal Shem Tov was like, okay, it's time for the floodgates to just open up and let loose. Okay, the dam's opening and all the water's about to flood out. Now, historically speaking, during this time, there's still all this stuff between Misnagdim and Chassidim. Now, today, there's no real Misnagdim like there was back then. And the Misnagdim thought that they were doing this for holy reasons, right? They're like, we're protecting our Torah. This is our, you're not giving over a Mishnah Berurah to someone who doesn't know, and you're giving him halachas. Like, you're taking the Kabbalah and you're dumbing it down, almost like saying, you guys all went to university and you all learned to be rocket scientists, okay? All of you. And you're like, rocket science is the top, right? I got, algebra 4 in there, or trigonometry, or whatever it is. And you're like, all right, I found a group of first graders and we need to give them trigonometry. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? We all went to university. We studied this. This is like, you can't just give this to, this is precious. This is rocket science. You can't let them fly man the rocket ships. And someone's like, nope, we're going to dumb it down for them. We're going to take the crown jewel and we're going to crush it up and mix it with water. And it's going to, and we're going to dilute it for them so that they can utilize it for themselves. So most people are like, at the time, are like, what are you talking about? Why are you gifting these secrets of the Torah? And Baal Shem Tov's like, this is what we need. So all these Chassidim, students of the Baal Shem Tov, students of the Maggid, and then, there's a series of different Chassiduses that were formed by the top students of the Maggid, who basically said, okay, we're going to find our way within the ways of Chassidus. So yes, Chassidim had certain traditions based on those things, but Chassidus itself is very different than the Chassidim who keep it, okay? So I want to just establish that there's the study of Chassidus, which is the Torah, actual Torah, meaning I could learn Modeh in 5 different ways. I could learn it based on the Pshat, the Remez, the Drush, and the Sod, the 4 different ways of analyzing Torah, right? Chassidus is the 5th way. Now, it's not something new. We talked about this. Everything was revealed to Moshe at Har Sinai. It just wasn't time to give it off. Same way there wasn't, what do you give strep people? Amoxicillin or whatever, right? And prizes, right? Prizes. It's not like amoxicillin was created and never existed. It just wasn't there. It just wasn't revealed until someone found it. So it was always here. The potential for it was here. But everything that was given in the Torah from Har Sinai through the end of time was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. So you can't say that Chassidus was somehow something new. It was just a time to reveal it and a time to integrate it into Jewish life. Okay? Any questions about any of this so far? Nothing? Okay. So before we break into specific Chassiduses and stuff like that, I don't really want to get into that. I want to get into actual Chassidic concept. So this isn't just a history lesson, which means that I'm going to be talking to you about the inner dimension of the Torah, which you may or may not have heard. You may have heard bits and pieces, but essentially this was stuff that was forbidden to Jews till about 250 years ago, 300 years ago, and this is why it caused such an uproar, okay? Now, let me just be clear that, like I said, I can learn Modeh from a Hasidic perspective. I can learn it from a Pshat perspective. It's the same Modeh. There is no Torah of Chassidus that somehow was different than any other piece of Torah. The Chassidus is almost like a magnifying glass, and you get to look, or a set of goggles, and you get to look at the same parsha that you've been looking at for 30 years, but now you're looking from a different lens. You have a 4D IMAX goggles, and you get to see the hidden layers that are behind it. So you sit there and you feel the little squirt gun squirt you when the water comes, and the thing, and the spiders are coming in your face like at Disney. And basically, it's just giving you a different way to look at the same exact thing that you've already seen a million times. Okay, so if I give you the Balatanya, Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi, the founder of Chabad, if I give you an essay that he wrote on a specific parsha, you could hear a perspective that you've never heard ever. And it's not that the parsha is different or that he changes the meaning. He's just giving you a different way to look at it, the deepest way to look at it. Okay, so the Torah of Chassidus itself is really just the inner depth or the inner dimension of all of the Torah, which means that every piece of Torah that exists has different ways that you can look at it. And if you look through that 4D lens or those goggles, you get to see the inner, deeper meaning. Okay, so again, the ways of Chassidus, how people live, and all of that, that's custom and history and all that. But today we're going to talk about actual Chassidus and the foundations. Now, in order for you to understand Chassidus, there's some background that you need to know. Okay, and most people think that this is very impractical. So when I start talking about it, they're like, why do I need to know this? How does this make me a better Jew? How does this make me want to give more tzedakah or do more mitzvahs or learn more Torah? I promise you there's an end goal here. But a big part of Chassidus, of the goal of Chassidus, is to get you to understand your creator, and simultaneously to get you to understand yourself. Because the more you know how you work, and the more you know what Hashem actually wants and why he does what he does, or why he created the system, the better off you are at navigating this video game that we call life. Okay, so you understand the parameters of how all of the pieces work and why certain things tick in a certain way. The more I can give you, like if you're a doctor and you understand the human anatomy, you're not just making guesses, you're making educated guesses when you treat a patient, right? You know there are certain things, certain remedies for certain maladies. It's not like you're just taking shots in the dark. Now, I don't want to say, God forbid, that people who are not learning Chassidus are taking shots in the dark, but the best comparison I could give you would be to say, you're watching and loving Charlie Chaplin movies, and I'm watching 4D IMAX DreamWorks movies, okay? So it's not that one is better than the other. Up until the point where there were 4D goggles, it was really great to watch Charlie Chaplin trip over his pants or whatever, right, in black and white. You don't know who Charlie Chaplin is? Okay. How young are you? Okay. No, you're so young. Okay, back in the day, no.
Silent movie era.
Silent movies.
Before sound came to motion pictures, Charlie Chaplin was basically the Tom Hanks of cinema.
Yes.
We're like the Disney.
He was the top dog artist. Charlie Chaplin was like the best actor of the time when movies were like all black and white. Yes. Yeah, and he wore like big pants and penguined around the room. Okay, fine. All right. Okay, he was a yid anyway. So for many years in the history of the world, Charlie Chaplin was the man, right? But then they're like, wait, we can get sound in movies. And in real life, the sound was always there. People weren't living in black and white. It's just what you saw on the screen was black and white or didn't have sound. So when they figured out how to get color in motion pictures, that didn't mean that they invented color. It just means that it was already there and they were able to translate that. Do you follow that since you don't know Charlie Chaplin? Okay. Tell me what I said. You weren't listening. Okay.
Those are-
There's a better light that we did back then.
those
That
are
what?
good analogies.
No, no, it was
Yeah,
a
a lot more.
fantastic analogy.
Yes.
He was basically saying that there is now this. Back in the day, there was only that, and it wasn't able to be in color and whatever, but it was still in existence still there.
Right.
And now we have this to give you, and it's so much better than the people that are not learning this.
Right.
You, without saying Chassidus is better than blah blah, just said Chassidus really actually is better than blah blah blah.
I think so because I would rather watch a motion picture in color with
You
sound
didn't want to
in
say it.
4K
You said it without saying
than watching in black and white.
That's because you know the difference now, though.
Because the color's there anyway,
it. But I was listening.
and the sound is there anyway.
But now you know that. Back then, they didn't know any.
Correct, and it wasn't their fault. The
Right,
the
that's what I'm saying.
select
That's way too
the
much.
select few.
As long as you learn it, though. As long as
Can I-
you
can
learn
I
it.
strength- can I strength
Yeah,
you
go
more?
ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
So the artists came out, whatever it was, 14 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that, and it won Best Picture, and it was a silent black and white movie, and everyone at the time like this is unbelievable. This is so nice to have a silent film. It's like so powerful, but it's similar to today where you can still catch true gleaning and powerful meaning from things that were.
It doesn't make them obsolete. It just
Right.
means that for the most part, why look that way if you could look with color and sound, right? But the main thing I want to stress is that you can't pretend that just because the movies weren't able to capture the color and the sound in the movies, that somehow they weren't there. Bring them for them. I brought them to share. Okay. You're just going to get your hands all over them. Okay. Ricky, come take.
No, Vicky just talked all
Okay, fine. All right.
It's
So,
so clean.
all right. So basically now that we've established that, I want to actually go into concept. Okay. So the way that the world was created, okay, everyone here, I assume, knows the story of Bereshis, how Hashem created the world in 6 days, and the seventh day he rested. Okay, that's really cool. Does anyone here have any experience with how he actually created it? Meaning, what went on behind the scenes in order to create all of this stuff in the world? Have you ever thought about that?
Mhm.
And what did you come up with?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
But that's what reminds me of there's a God. Like there's certain moments you have, like you go to the beach and you see the most incredible shells, and you're like, there's only one thing created this, and that's
Right.
Hashem.
Right.
And
Right. So on the practical side, as far as what you get out of it, when you look at the world, you can say, wow, this world is unbelievable. There has to be a God, right? And you can say, fine, I can accept the story of Bereshis to say, okay, Hashem said, Vayihi or, and there was light. Okay. But we're very comfortable accepting that our world is like a world of darkness, right? Like Pirkei Avos, everything says this is the world of lies, and nothing else is real, and nothing here is real. Everything above is real, and we talk about Olam Haba, and we talk about all this stuff, but no one really gets into the nitty-gritty of how this all came about. And the reason I want to talk about creation is because creation is a big model for how Hashem exists and what our nature looks like spiritually, what our spiritual DNA looks like. Because if you know, Hashem modeled the whole system after each other. So he said, okay, I'm going to create a world, right? And why did Hashem decide to create a world? Because he's like, I have a desire for Jews to go into a dark place and find a way to find me and then fulfill my commandments. So the entire premise of this entire world of creation and the entire Torah was all for one thing. Hashem had a desire that these lowly creatures will go into a dark world with no flashlights and figure out how to find that he's there and that there's ways for them to connect with him. That's what Hashem likes. The why, I can't tell you. I don't know Hashem's desires. No one does. But this is what Hashem desired. He's like, I want a world where you guys can be in the dark and not know I exist and find me and figure out how to connect to me via this instruction manual that I'm going to park here for you called the Torah. Okay? So that's the bottom line of why he created it. Okay? Because he had a desire. Why he desired that, I have no idea. At that point, Hashem's like, okay, I have a Torah. It existed 2,000 years before the world, right? And it says that Hashem consulted with the souls of the tzaddikim, the souls of the righteous, about whether or not he should create this world. He's like, look, I have this desire, right? Imagine this conversation between Hashem and some righteous tzaddikim pre the existence of the world. They're all in wherever they are with Hashem. And Hashem is like, okay, guys, I have this itch. I got to scratch it. What is it, Hashem? I need you to create, I want to create this world. Why? Well, guess what? If I create these creatures and put them in the dark and then they'll get to find me and do what I like, that might be super enjoyable. And the tzaddikim were like, I don't know about that. And Hashem's like, I really want to. And the tzaddikim were like, well, you know what's going to happen, right? Like, these guys are going to get lost. They're going to be in the dark. They're not going to find you. They're going to fail. Da, da, da. After this whole discussion, the tzaddikim are like, all right, Hashem, you are in. Go for it. Do it. We support you. So Hashem's like, okay, great. Well, now I got to go about it, right? So in our human minds, all we're thinking of is, oh, okay, great. Well, Hashem, where does our story begin? Vayihi Or, right? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Hashem created the world. Boom, boom, boom. That's where it starts for most humanity. Most people I know have never thought about what Hashem practically did to create these worlds. Now, I'm not going to have you guess, but the background is that Hashem has a system of how things form in this world. So imagine an assembly line, okay? I'll try to keep it simple. But this is a concept that's going to be talked about a lot, so get comfortable with it. Hashem is all the way up here, okay? And I'm going to talk in spatial, terminology so that we as humans can understand this, because otherwise this isn't going to make any sense. Hashem exists up here, and we are in this lowly world way down here, okay? Now, in order for things to get from there to here, they have to go through a chain-like descent. Do you ever watch Price is Right? No, you're too young for Price is Right. Plinko. Okay, Plinko chips, right? You put the thing in the Plinko machine, and there's little pegs everywhere, and it dings and dings and dings all the way down. Or,
Hershey Park.
right, Hershey Park. Or you ever see, I don't know who thinks Hershey Park. You ever see those like water things that there's like those wheels, and the water goes down and spins the wheel, and then goes into the next wheel and spins it? Those little blue drops with the toothbrushing thing. Okay, so those are good prizes. Okay, Maytal was very excited about her cards that she got from me. Now I was very excited she didn't have strep. Okay, so those things are basically this chain-like descent. Hashem had to create a methodology of how things get from him all the way up here, same to here. Just like an Amazon, right? You're going to order something from Amazon. You don't realize, all you think about is that a delivery driver took it and he brought it to your house. You only see the last portion of it, right? You don't see the fact, and I know because I used to have 120 vehicles that delivered Amazon packages every day in California. There's a central distribution warehouse that's probably 1 million square feet that Amazon has, full of the stuff that you order. And they receive that stuff from sellers who sell to Amazon or sell through Amazon. They get it. From there, it goes on a huge semi-trailer, or it goes on trains, and then it comes to a local distribution center where they get all the stuff that's supposed to be in that region. And from there, it gets dispatched onto smaller trucks and goes to smaller distribution centers. And then the Amazon vehicles that you see that come to your house go there every single morning and load up their packages, each one 300-400 packages for whoever they're going. And then it gets routed to you. So the difference between when you get your package to the place where the package originates is so many steps away. But most Jews are just starting in Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. That's what most people are thinking about, right? No one ever thinks to go behind that layer and saying, well, where did this package come from before the driver delivered it from his car to my house, right? But there's a whole chain like events. And I literally just went snorkeling in the Caribbean, and I was looking through the water at this reef. And there's fish everywhere, and there's stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, all of this exists underwater. None of us would have ever seen it. Like, if I didn't have these goggles and the snorkel, forget that I got kicked in the face by someone in front of me and lost my snorkel. But if you, oh, that was entertaining. Okay. If you if you look down there and you stick your head under, you're like, oh my God, an entire world exists that I didn't even know about, right? There's a whole other half of the world that we don't see for all sea life, right? All the creatures, they have their things, and the reef is going like this, and there's fish coming out from all different holes in different places. All this stuff is happening. So just because you can't see it unless you stick your head in doesn't mean that it's not there, okay? So everything pre-Bereshit or leading up to Bereshit being possible all existed, okay? It's just something that is in the hidden, inner, not revealed part of the Torah, and that is Kabbalah, okay? Now, the big difference in Chassidus and Kabbalah is that Chassidus is Kabbalah, but if you just look in a Zohar, none of us are going to know what it's even talking about. Okay? That what? That what? Right, right. So most people have no idea what it means, and Jews didn't learn it till they were 40, and they had to be righteous Jews. But Chassidus basically says, okay, we're going to water this down. We're going to dilute it, not in the quality of what it is, but in a way that you could understand it. Because remember, we're giving the crown jewel to the poor pauper, right? We're not giving it to the king's son. It used to be that the king had a couple sons, and those tzaddikim got the Kabbalah. Now we're giving it to the common folks, and you have to dumb it down for them to receive it, because you're giving algebra 5 to first graders, right? So you have to dumb it down for them, or else they just don't understand. So Chassidus uses mashals, it uses examples and parables in order to get us to be able to understand and see with our brains something that our eyes can't see. So imagine I described the entire bottom of the ocean to you, and you learned about all the fish, and you learned about the reef and which fish eats which fish and all this other stuff that goes on, but you never saw the ocean ever, and you never stuck your head underwater. You would have a very good visual, because think, even when you dream, you can see, and your eyes are closed. Your eyes aren't actually what see, it's your brain that sees. Your eye just collects the what's out there and gives it to your brain to process, and your brain decides what it's seeing. So really it's your brain that sees, right? And so the fact that you can't necessarily physically see something, like if God forbid someone got to see for 50 years and then became blind, they would still be able to see in their mind what things looked like, okay? Your brain has a vision. So Chassidus is just using your brain to contemplate and understand what's going on under the sea level, or in this case, instead of under the sea, up above, okay? Now, the up above could really be here too. I don't want to say that this is stuff that doesn't exist in this world. It's just stuff that you can't see with your physical eyes. Now, you guys are all too young to have seen The Matrix, but you saw it, and you should probably watch it because it's the best Chassidus movie ever. You should nod this way and not that way. Okay, it's the bomb. Do people still say the bomb? Okay. Okay, no, they don't. Okay. Not bum.
They can blow up.
Okay. Okay. All right. I've never felt so old in my life. So basically, just understanding the code in the background, understand that everything you see has a spiritual counterpart that allows it to exist. Okay. So if you see a ray of sun, you don't have to see the sun up close to know that you're getting light through your windows in your house from the sun, right? If your house is warm because the sun is shining on it, you don't have to fly up to space to the sun to know that there's a sun. You're still getting the benefit of it here. Now, the sun is more tangible. We can look up and burn our eyes and see it and feel its heat and rays, but it's millions of miles away from where we actually are, okay? Everything that goes on here, and one of the main purposes of Chassidus is to show you what is really going on in this world. So you'll get to wear these 4D glasses, and you'll get to see and hear and feel and smell and touch everything that is really going on behind the scenes, because the one fact is that for all physical matter, there's a spiritual matter that created it and that sustains it and that keeps it alive this entire time. Because before the world, there was only spiritual. There was just Hashem, right? Every time you say En od milvado, you're saying that there's nothing other than Hashem. That doesn't mean that the only God is Hashem. You're saying the only anything is Hashem, because he was here before us and he created us from himself, And if he wants, he could get rid of us and nothing would change for him. He's unchanged. He's unchangeable. Even our existence, it's not me, you guys, and Hashem. He allows us to feel distinct like we exist because that's part of the video game, right? How are we going to find him in the dark if we can't, if we don't feel our own existence? But really, there's nothing other than him. And so one basic concept that we're going to explore and go into detail on is this you're going to have a very real and practical understanding of what goes on underwater or above the sky, or everything that sustains physical matter is a spiritual matter. You'll understand how it came about, how the little spinny wheel waterfall toothbrush prize happens, and why it works that way, and why you have to have this chain-like descent to get where Hashem is up here down to us down here. So all these concepts that might seem super lofty to you, I promise have the most practical applications of all time. Or else, how would you arouse a nation of Jewish people that don't just hold it in? How do you inspire? That's better. How do you inspire a generation of Jews who don't know how to daven, who don't know how to learn, unless you're giving them the fire, right? You have to light them up somehow. And so we're going to go into a whole lot of detail on all of that, but I promise there are super practical ramifications. Any questions? We can even just do like a Q&A for a minute if you want to ask.
And this is intro's done.
Go ahead, yes. No more intro after
No
this.
more intro. You're gonna actually
Next time, yeah.
tell us actually.
Yeah, but I have to keep you wanting more. That's how it works.
That's why you're a musician. You play piano.
That's true.
You just don't want to resolve it.
Exactly. Richard's a drummer. Yeah, go on.
We could have had a concert.
We'll have
I sing very badly, but I sing.
You can't say you sing.
I do.
You sing is like what someone says when they're like a singer for a job.
I am a singer.
Not like I sing in the shower. Okay.
Can't do either.
Any questions? Any questions before I turn this off?
It should have off.
It is off.
Is it off?
Mm-hmm.
Now you ask a question.
Is it off?
Yeah,
It'll be off in a minute.
it's off.
Richard, is it off?
No, it's actually
I
off.
can't see from my angle.